Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle, Visionary Healers, Movers, and Shakers. I am your host, Paulette Rees-Denis, and I am so excited to bring you yet another exciting deep dive interview of people who are creating change in the world, helping the world become a better place, and also living the life of their dreams, manifesting all that they want to be, all that they are, and bringing their soul purpose to the world. So I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'd love to know what you think. Share your comments. Please subscribe. Stay with me and follow along with all these beautiful interviews with all these amazing magic makers. Again, Heart and Hustle, Visionary Healers, Movers, and Shakers. And I hope to hear from you soon. Hello, my beautiful friends, peoples, everyone out there in Heart and Hustle land. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle. I am your host, Paulette Rees-Denis. I am your magical maker, your movement motivator, your passion instigator, and your podcast host for bringing just fascinating, intriguing, magical people, which I love, love, love to do. And you know that this is my 6th year of doing this. So that's so cool. Visionaries, healers, movers, shakers, people who are making change in the world, who are creating the life of their dreams as they help others create the life of their dreams. Entrepreneurs, God, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And today, I get to introduce to you Laura Nygun. Did I say it right?
Good.
I'm learning on the go. Anyway, Laura, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing. I love this podcast. So thanks for having me.
So good. I know. It's so good. It's so juicy. And I cannot wait to dive into this work that you were doing because I follow that. So why don't you tell us what you're about?
Yeah, no, happy to. So I spent the last 20 years on the corporate side. So I was leading high performance marketing teams at large organizations for really the vast majority of my career. And I totally burnt out. So in 2022, I decided that I would quit my executive job with no job lined up. And I was going to take a career break. And so during that time of trying to identify that, what would it take for me to take a career break? How would I want to intentionally focus on that career break? I really wanted to be thoughtful about how to spend my time away from work. And part of it was that conditioning of like, I have to make the most out of this time.
It's like,
Right.
go.
Right. And I'm a goal-oriented person that like I have to achieve what I'm set to achieve during this break. And I think ultimately the break became so cleansing for me and so much unlearning and unpacking so much of the conditioning that I had had. And it has now led me to helping other people plan, take, and then re-enter the workforce after a career break for them and be really thoughtful and intentional about how do they lead their lives in a more authentically driven way.
Oh, wow. And so first thing that popped into my head. So how much of that do you identify with as a woman?
What a beautiful question. I think if you just look at scientifically, right, and then also just the psychological conditioning for women that, we can do it all.
Yes.
Right? We can do it all. We can take care of the kids, take care of the house, still achieve in our jobs, be corporate leaders, right? Break that glass ceiling. All of these things that we're told that we can do, we feel like we can do, and then also smile and be humble during the process. Right? Right? Like we're told all of these things. So I think a lot of it, yes, is me feeling like I had to as a woman that I had to as a first generation American, right? There's a whole unpacking that has
Right,
to
there's the
happen.
whole proving yourself and being that strong woman, and I don't need to ask for help. I can do it all. What was that song? You know, cook it up in a pan, whatever that song was. I am woman, hear me roar. That thing,
Mm,
Ellen Reddy. Uh,
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, so much of us, right, are told that, like, yes, we can do anything. Like, and I think there was a conditioning around that component to it for sure.
well, and
But
there was an idea of having to prove that you could do anything.
yes, yes. And I felt like I had, to your point, like I had to earn my seat at the table,
Yeah,
right? And I
yeah.
think there's like for a lot of people, if you're, a person of color, a female, part of the LGBT community, whatever that looks like for you, like being other becomes a component of never feeling enough. And
Mm,
because it's conditioning of not feeling enough, you feel like you have to prove yourself every single time just merely by your existence.
I got goosebumps on that one. That was intense. Just by your existence. So when you took this step, how was that?
Yeah. I mean, first, I was just talking to a friend about it actually earlier today, which is we think there's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm,
Right? We think that there's this process. And I think in my mind, I said, I'm going to give myself 120 days for this career break because, really, if you think about it, like a quarter, my corporate conditioning, a quarter feels good. And like a little over a quarter is like build into the next thing. It's a good transition into whatever's next. So I had structured it in a way that said, I'm going to do a month of play. I'll do a month of pause. I'll do a month of plan. And then I'll do a month of pursue. So it was all
oh
for
my God, you're
me.
so structured.
Yes. It was
Oh,
it was all like evidence-based, right? Science-based tools and resources that I had read because I was so burnt out that I couldn't figure out a way to, kick my burnout again and feel like I was making progress. And so the science says that, we need to have more joy and being able to be present, right? The science says meditation is powerful. And my conditioning and my own natural instinct to be a planner, as you were talking about, is how do I then be thoughtful and intentional about where I go next?
mhm.
And so the process for me was play is critical and important because I think as adults, we don't play enough. We just throw it
Oh,
out the window. Right? Like as kids, there's something that happens around the age 10 where we get worried about play, 8 or 10. And the science says that, that's when we start worrying about are we going to get picked for a team or not? Are
mm,
we going to be good enough when we're playing dodgeball, right? Out in the field. And we stop playing and we start fearing judgment. And that's what happens to us as we carry that into adulthood, where, I think about it as, and I thought about it myself, play felt frivolous. It felt like a luxury. It
right.
felt like a
Yes.
bad use of
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But we have to allow ourselves to enjoy being in play because play is actually, if you think about the science around play, it's actually the foundation for creativity and problem solving and social connectivity. Like when we talk about this loneliness epidemic and the burnout epidemic we're all feeling, it's because we lack play.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, I so relate to that. I mean, for so many years, and even still, it's just like I'm not a good hanger outer. But when I do, I love it. And then I never want to go back to work. It's like, oh, this is feeling good. But it's hard. It's really hard. Because I've worked 7 days a week, 24/7 for, 50 years, right? And loving what I do, and being the artist, the creative, the dancer, the musician. the freak, the whatever, but always trying to make the ends meet and do all the things. So much of it was love and joyful and fun, but it wasn't just being.
Mm. Mhm.
And so now that I'm learning how to just be, and
Such a shift, right?
it's fabulous, but it's still hard. Oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be doing this. It's like, God, Paulette, would you just stop?
Yeah. Like we're shitting ourselves to death, right? Like it's constantly shitting on ourselves. And I think that's the thing is we have this, there's that saying, right? Like we're human beings, not human doings.
Right.
But our
Which
desire, right, around productivity is about outcomes. And um being is really hard. It's hard for me too, trust me. Like it's
I,
very hard for me, which is why I have to continue to practice it is how can I just be in this moment and not try to benefit something, right? Like that it,
right. Oh,
right?
it's got to be an outcome,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a monetary outcome.
Whatever it is, right? And there is something special when you can just be in that present moment and enjoy that present moment, whatever you're doing, that it helps you kind of be in flow. And as a creative, I mean, your power and your energy is from creating something, right? And so that just means that you have to fuel yourself to be able to create again.
Right. Right. And that's where that burnout comes in, right? So how did you refuel yourself then when you did this your monthly structured planning?
Yeah. So the refuel for me is a continuous process, right? Like you don't like plug in your phone once and then go, we're
Right.
good, right? Like it's a recharge
Yeah.
daily, right? Maybe a couple of times if you need to during the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, so when I think about play, pause, plan, and pursue, like for me, it was easy for me to digest because it gave me something clear to work toward of, okay, I'm going to be present in play. This is what I'm going to do for play, and I'm going to enjoy that. And even this weekend, one of the things I was thinking about was like, I really need to play this last weekend. Like I could feel me being tapped out of that kind of joy energy again. I've been traveling a lot for the last couple weeks, and I was like, I really need something that's going to help tap me into joy. So, my daughter, she's 5 and she loves to go bowling. And so I was like, I want to take her. We're going to go bowling. It's an activity we
Good.
both can do together. And, we're going to put up those bumpers and just throw that ball down the lane. And it's like a fun activity, right? And afterward, I was like, that was only, let's say, an hour and a half, 2 hours, but it felt really good. And I can be in the moment and have a shared memory together. And that feels right. Um, and so, it's about that refueling for me kind of goes into how can I make sure that I'm infusing play into my daily life, if not my weekly life for sure. And then when I think about pause, meditation has been such a powerful tool for me personally. I couldn't meditate for 3 minutes before, to be honest with you, before my break. And now I crave it like 3 times a day. Like I'm like, oh, I need to like settle back in. And so that has really been powerful for me of getting regrounded and making sure that I'm recharging myself during that time period. And the planner in me still exists, right? Like I'm a Capricorn sun and a Virgo moon. All right. So like I need some of that structure.
Good.
And
Yes.
so, so for me, I'm like, okay, I like to do weekly, what's my plan look like? So I'm trying to look at the week ahead. And that allows me to say, how do I infuse play and pause into my week? And just try to forecast, like, okay, how do I make sure I'm oscillating my energy?
Mhm.
And making sure that I am really being thoughtful and intentional about that. And then also, what are my being goals, right? And how do I make sure that I'm continuing to focus on that on an ongoing basis? So the planning process is really important for me too.
And I agree with that completely. I mean, I got 5,000 journals and planners over here. And I'm a paper planner. I have to have it on paper.
Me too. Me too.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'll never lose that. But that's so good. But I've also been learning how to, when I make those plans, by setting intentions and making them magical, making them special, not just like a to-do list, but
Mm-hmm.
kind of envisioning the outcome,
Mm,
envisioning how I want that to unfold
mm-hmm.
so that it's beautiful and joyful and, abundant. And uh, I think instead of just that do, just like, oh, how are we gonna make that more meaningful?
Yeah. I love that. I love that you talk about that because the question is, for me, I want to go, how do I want to feel?
Yes.
Right? Like for so long, I don't think I felt anything. Like I
Mhm.
think I felt really numb, to be honest. And especially in burnout, I felt extremely numb. And I think maybe the only feelings that I had were resentment, cynicism, frustration. They were on this kind of negative spectrum. But everything else, I think I felt really numb to. And so when I shifted in my break to start asking myself, okay, well, how do I want to feel? How do I feel now? And also, how do I want to feel? Like when it's that goal really shifted for me of, oh, now I can check in with my body that if I have a call or if I'm meeting someone, I can actually understand where the energy is that I didn't know before because now I can open myself up to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Um, I, I mean, I think that's the ultimate question. How do you want to feel?
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there?
Mm.
Seriously, this is it. How do you want to feel? How do you want to move forward? You can make it disgusting and negative and nasty, or you can make it beautiful and magical and, loving. And I mean, only we get to make the choice for ourselves.
I love that you said that. I love that you said only we get to make the choice for ourselves. I think in burnout, we feel like we have no autonomy. We feel like we're stuck, we feel frozen. And I think a lot of people feel that way, whether they're burnt out or not. They feel like this is it. This is all that there is. But there's so much more autonomy and choice. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
choose, right? To change how you feel, to change your
Right,
mindset, whatever
right.
that is.
Yeah. And I mean, I can, I could probably list off several several times when I got into burnout and I ran away.
Mhm.
Well, that didn't solve anything. I was numb and you go away. It's like I don't want to look at any of that. I'm just going to try something different. And that didn't solve anything, and so it repeats itself.
Mhm.
Right? Until you have those realizations. So, okay, so you have a book coming out
I do. Yes, November 12th.
November
Career
12th.
Break
Is that it
Compass.
back there on your shelf?
Yeah, I've got some advanced copies. Yeah, yeah.
I saw it. I saw it. That's so great. And so how is that for you? Is that your first book
My
or
first.
your first?
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've written before there. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. As you know, they are a labor of love. Like writing a book is such a labor of love. And it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy, and also takes a lot of time from it to go from manuscript, right, to actually like getting out into the world. So I think it's been about 20 months since I wrote it.
Wow.
Um, right? Yeah, about
So do you have an agent or a publisher, or are you doing yourself?
yeah, so it's through the Collective Book Studio. It is a hybrid publisher out in San Francisco, women owned. Angela's fantastic. So yeah, it's through hybrid publishing. It's been a really great process in terms of like the editing process, the design process, and now we're starting to do a lot of the promotional process. And like as a marketer, right? Like it's been a really interesting observation for me of how do you promote a book and what does that look like?
My God,
Um,
it never stops. The work never stops.
as someone who've experienced burnout, not sure what I got myself into. I'm just kidding.
But are you so excited?
Honestly, I'm excited that, you know, I think a lot of the times we talk about, burnout or, and how to solve that through these practices. But we don't really openly, from a societal perspective, talk about career breaks and what that means. So I'm hoping, honestly, that it can help people feel more empowered for their own lives. And most importantly, of the people I interviewed around a sabbatical or a career break, most of them didn't have like a plan. And so what ended up happening during their career break was, these are type A, high achieving corporate people, and their calendar went from being double booked to having nothing on their calendar. And that creates a sense of panic in people,
Mm,
right? And so what ended up happening was they started searching for jobs almost immediately. And so they didn't actually get to take their break. And that was the feedback I had heard from so many people was I felt scared. And so I ended up just finding another job instead of using the time the way that I wanted to use the time. And so for me, I recognize I needed some sort of framework and a guidebook that would give me permission to be in the break. And I'm hoping that people can give themselves permission to using that time and being thoughtful and intentional as well.
good, good. Oh, God, we need that so bad. But I totally hear that. It's like, oh, panic, panic. What am I going to do? How am I going to bring in money? What's next?
Yes. What am I going to do? That's exactly it. Because then the next thing goes, what can I feel like I have control over? Well, I can go on LinkedIn and start rapidly applying, easy apply to any job. And then you get in, so you talked about this before. You get into the next job and guess what? You get burnt out again,
Right. Oh, yeah. Hello. Yeah.
right? And you just keep doing it over and over again until you learn your lesson.
Hopefully you learn your lesson.
You're right. You're right.
But that's why
Hopefully.
you're here. I love it. Okay, so talking about not being burnout, but what's next for you?
Yeah, what's next? So the book comes out in November, and as a part of the book, I have an online community now, but kind of like I have an online community and then I have a course. So they're all separate offerings.
Mhm.
And what I've decided to do is really compile everything under one place. So I'm in the process now of building, what a kind of cohort model would look like for people to go through as a part of essentially like a group coaching program that takes them through all four stages of the break. So, yes, there's the career break piece as a part of a catalyst, but people also are looking to find ways to get back into work after their break. So, we have a section called Career Seekers. And then when you get into a new job, you have to transition into your first 100 days. And so I've used a model for my first 100 days that I use with one-on-one clients. So that is a part of it as well as like, how do you successfully integrate
Mm,
into a new role, but sustainably so that way you're not burning yourself out again, so that you're relearn. So all the habits you learned during your break, now you can infuse them into your life and then continue to build adaptability kind of practices as well as resiliency practices along the way as well.
nice. Wow. That's a lot of work.
It's kind of thinking about like what are the so my theme is always I've always gravitated to water. And so which is interesting because I'm an earth sign. But as I think
I
about
live in
that,
Iowa.
and I live in Iowa, so I'm heavily landlocked. Which is maybe why I love water so much. But the concept around Career Break Compass, my book is all about it's water themed. And so, water flows naturally, right? Water is extremely powerful. It can cut through stone. It can freeze. It can take so many forms. It freezes, turns into a gas, is a liquid, right? Like there's something so beautiful about the adaptability of water. And so the thought process is like when you think about the compass and the 4 points of a compass, like how do we navigate our lives and recognize that things are going to change and that we're always starting over at some point. And so I just want to try to create a place where people can go to that they feel safe enough to continue to start over and have the tools and resources that can be
Mm,
helpful for them.
that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. I the whole concept of water. I'm a triple fire. Hello.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
look at that.
Yeah, and then you wonder why. Okay.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right.
I'm a Scorpio rising. So, I mean, there's a little.
Yeah. Oh, but that's beautiful. Well, what a delight to chat with you. I'm so excited about the work you're doing.
Thank you. No, it's super fun. Yeah. Hopefully it's helpful for folks.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I think it's really important. I think it's so important for people to identify that they need to take a break and that it's okay.
What do you think stops people from taking
Oh
a
God.
break?
Oh God. Oh, I mean, I think a lot of reasons. I think, especially as women, um, the need to prove themselves that they can do it all. Uh, it could be income, it could be family. Uh, Gosh, why do women not allow themselves? They don't allow themselves the self-care.
Yeah. I
It's
was
huge.
talking, yeah, I was talking to someone yesterday and just reminded me of this of, um, I've become friends with him of understanding, all of his journey and a lot of the self-work that he's been doing and, taking time to rest and care for himself and really shifting into that. And so we were talking about his wife and just like, what does that look like for her? And he was saying, she just hasn't been able to give herself that permission to take the time to rest. And a part of it is it's like, yes, you need to hear it from other sources, but there's something in us that we have to let go of as women that says we have to do it all. Like no one is telling us that really.
No, and I think it's also a female male thing too, especially if you have a male partner or whatever. It's like you have to prove something to them, or you have to be competitive with them, or I mean, I see that a lot too.
Yeah. And there is a piece of, right, of there we have our own autonomy and agency that somehow we think we don't have.
Mm.
And there's a piece of it of pulling some of that back, right? For especially as women, I was talking to a friend and we were talking about like as a career break, there's something that I have always felt at tension with, which is one side of me is, I have spent all this time in this hustle culture and climbed these corporate ladders, right? I was typically the youngest person in the room, the person of color in the room, whatever it is. Sometimes only the only female in the room.
Oh boy, you've been
And
through that.
right? And there's a piece of like, I am building a model and I have the ability to sponsor other women into these other roles. And that's my responsibility as a woman in leadership. But the other side to
That's
it,
pretty heavy.
right? Yes, right. It
Heavy.
feels this weight of this responsibility, right? Of
It's a beautiful responsibility, but
yes,
damn, that's just.
yes. And and I think the other side to that is, but what about me?
Mhm,
What do I need? And if I can give myself permission to refuel
mhm.
and get clear on what I want, then I can help other women in a different way.
And I think we need that so much. I think that this society, I mean, we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to be part of something. And I think, it's a continuing circle, it's a continuing spiral, where we learn from each other and we inspire each other. And it's a beautiful, a connection, whether it's in person or virtual or, spiritual or whatever. Um, but it's so good and it's so important.
Yeah. Paul, can I ask you, you had talked about you've experienced burnout, several times. How did you transition, um, kind of like we were talking about learning your lesson? Like, I would just be curious to know what your journey has been.
Gosh, well, there's been so many different phases in my life. I should write another book, but
Yes, you should.
yeah, I should.
Only if you want to.
Yes, and I am working on another book, but it's
Oh,
poetry this time, my second poetry book. But anyway, I feel like I had to run. I had to run away. So like I said earlier, it didn't solve anything except put me in a different place. Uh, and then I would go back and kind of do it again. And I've done it several times. Um, and now I'm just releasing it. I don't need to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to prove myself to anyone. And I've created a legacy and I've created a path for others. Uh, and I love that.
Mm.
And I love being able to, as a coach, as a writer, as a teacher, I love to inspire others to, it's not about me anymore. Way back when it was kind of about me, uh, in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. I'm 67 now. Jesus Christ. Mad. But it's not about me. It's about what I have to offer. And that is calming. It's not about the hustle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference because we go through phases, right? We have to make our living, we have to become something, or we want to become, maybe not we have to, but we want to.
Mm-hmm.
As a creative, I wanted to create these things and I did. Like I was on fire, triple fire. uh and then you run yourself crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it took a long time for me to learn how to stop. And like I said, I'm still learning how to just hang out. I'm learning how to play. And I love it when I do. It's like, whoa, I think I'm just going to do this all the time.
It becomes addictive, doesn't it? The
Yeah, yeah.
feeling
It's
is
so
so
good.
light. Yeah.
Good. But it also helps me regenerate and step into a different kind of creativity.
Mm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. 100%. Yeah. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it took a really long time because as a woman, I could do it all.
Yeah.
It took a long time for me to start asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did. And then I asked, the world for help and studied with a lot of people, which was also awesome. I loved it. I love learning what's out there. I love the tools. That's why I love this podcast. I love seeing what people are creating. I love learning different methods and, from spiritualism to physicality to emotional, I'm trying to learn it all. And it's never ending. And that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's not pressure. That's just like, wow, there's so much out there. This world
Mm-hmm.
is an awesome place to live.
Yeah. I know that curiosity. I think there's that.
Yes.
I think it's Albert Einstein that's like, I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious.
So good.
And that's always stuck with me. And to your point, like there's so much to
Mm.
learn. I think that's what gravitated me, honestly, to digital marketing was like it was emerging and these platforms and the technology are continuously changing. So you
Yeah.
can never really be an expert, right? Because it's constantly evolving and
Oh
there's
my God.
something,
It's
right?
scary in some way. It's just like, stop.
Yeah.
you know, stop changing things.
Yeah. There's something so beautiful, right, about that change and the transformation that continues to happen. And I have found myself personally going on my own journey, especially in pause. And that's where I really learned it, which is like this
Mm,
exploration around, spirituality in a different way. I was raised Catholic, so, a very typical structured framework. And like
so was I.
learning about spirituality in such a different way, right? And exploring it and just there's so much vast information that we just don't know and that I'm continuing to learn and grow has been a ton of fun and
Mhm.
fascinating at the same
Yes.
time. And
Yes.
I think there's something beautiful in that transformative internal transformation as well.
Yeah. And that just makes every day so exciting
Yeah, so true. I love that.
if you allow yourself to step into that place, right? And then it's
Yes.
also stepping into the place of gratitude. I think gratitude is one of the most powerful things you can step into.
Hmm. Yeah, that mindset shift. Like so many of us, when I talked about like the being in a state of anger and resentment and cynicism, right? Like the quick cure for that is gratitude, right? Like truly, what are we thankful for? The ability to take a breath right now, right?
I mean, it can
The,
be so simple, right?
yes,
Simple. And we forget.
yes.
Forget.
We get stuck in these, you know, whatever these like negative paradigms are for ourselves and this negative self-talk.
Right.
But the
Oh,
truth is, it's so simple to your point around practices of gratitude.
mhm. Yeah, make a world of difference. But again, it always comes down to only we can make our own changes. It's our choice.
Yes. Yes. And as coaches, I think that's the biggest thing, right?
Ah,
Like I think that's the biggest thing is we are people want to buy sometimes like a quick fix.
yeah.
Like tell me how I can fix
Oh, yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Just you got to do the work, which
You
is
can
good
read the
work.
book, but if you don't do the work, it
Yeah.
doesn't help. Yeah, you got to do the work, and the work is messy.
And it can be messy, but it can be beautiful. And that's the
Oh,
thing.
yes.
That's when you got to step into that mindset. It's like, okay, I'm creating this new change for myself, and this is, it might be difficult, but it might be easy.
Yes. Yes. And it's only difficult if you continue to stay in
Yeah.
that difficult
If you make
mindset
it,
and space,
oh,
right?
yeah. Law
Yes.
of attraction.
Yes. Things start to unfold faster once you allow it to.
Oh, oh, we could talk about that for another couple hours,
Indeed. Indeed.
which is so good. I love this conversation. This is
Yeah,
so
it's
great.
so fun.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and with
Uh,
us.
Thank you for
Wow.
having me. I've so appreciated it.
Oh, it's
Such
so
a
good.
fun conversation.
So you guys, I always give you all of her information so you can connect with her. And her book's coming out in November.
Yep, November 12th.
Exciting, exciting. And wow, it's coming right up. Woof.
I know, yeah. For folks who wanna do I am running a special, like, pre-order,
Oh, good, 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 good.
depending on when, the podcast goes live, but there's a women-owned, adoptee-owned, and Asian-owned bookstore here in Iowa. It's owned by Lindsay, and she's phenomenal, and so I am running a special pre-order that if you get it from her store, which is called Reading in Public, I will send you a signed copy, and then also you'll get entered into a sweepstakes, which gives you access to all of the course materials or all of the book materials that are in a course format, as well as entry into some additional kind of free coaching sessions for folks so that you'll have some one-on-one time with me, and then early access to a retreat that I'm planning on hosting next year.
Woo, very exciting.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Plans, good plans. Planning.
As always,
Oh,
it is a P in the process.
I love it. I love it. So, uh, again, thank you. And thank you, everybody out there in Heart and Hustle Land, for joining us for yet another inspiring, joyful conversation with Laura and myself, Paulette Rees-Denis, at Heart and Hustle. And, please ask questions. If you have any questions for Laura or myself, please subscribe to the podcast. It's always on YouTube. It's always on SoundCloud, iTunes. I'm kind of everywhere. And thank you for being here. Many
Thank you.
blessings. I love you all and have a splendid rest of your week.